Welcome to Relation Tales. Please like this video and subscribe Relation Tales. We're grateful for each and every one of you. Let us know where in the world you're tuning in from. We'd love to hear from you in the comments. Let's begin. The voicemail was 31 seconds long, and every second carved a line into Logan Hale's chest. Avery, hey, Dad's here. I'm calling you back right now. He tried 3 times. No answer. Logan had spent 9 months working security advisories for federal contractors in the desert, keeping his head down to stack overtime and prove to a judge that he was the steady parent. He returned with sand in his boots and 2 goals in his head: fix the quiet distance in his daughter's voice and rebuild a normal life in Ridgeview, Arizona. He hadn't expected the second ring on his phone to be from an old favor, Detective Marcus Hayes. You texted me an emergency. Talk. Logan didn't waste words. Sabrina married Officer Travis Kane while I was out. Avery left me a message. Kane's threatening them with a gun. Hayes exhaled. Kane's a name I've heard in all the wrong rooms. Debt collections, side jobs, always clean on paper. He's off shift the next 3 nights. If something happens, it won't exist in the system. Logan's jaw flexed. Send me everything you won't put in an email. Check your encrypted inbox in 30. Hayes hung up. Logan moved like a man switching back on. He bought a burner at a strip mall kiosk, paid cash for a week at a tired roadside motel 2 towns over, and spent an hour in a parking lot studying files. Addresses, habits, a map of Kane's favorite bars, even the hardware store where he liked to buy home improvements, the kind that kept people quiet. Hidden among the reports was a familiar name that twisted Logan's stomach: Sabrina Ward. Wire transfers, shopping binges, sudden cash deposits. He had been in love with Sabrina since they were 20, when she promised she didn't need fancy nights out, that hand-packed picnic dinners at the park felt like a dream. Years later, she wanted more: a bigger house, shinier weekends, a life that took pictures well. When Logan's rotations increased, Sabrina said she was lonely. He believed her. He didn't know about Travis Kane then. He didn't know that Sabrina's loneliness wore a diamond bracelet. Logan opened a notebook and wrote 2 columns. What I know and what I want. What I know: Avery's in danger. Sabrina married Kane. Kane is armed, dirty, protected. What I want: Avery's safe. Full custody. Kane exposed. Sabrina stripped of the power she used to hurt our kid. He took a breath and added a line he almost didn't write. I want to feel like a father again. The burner chimed. A single text from an unknown number. Avery. Dad, he's asleep. I can't talk. Please hurry. He closed his eyes for a heartbeat. The plan built itself in the space between the next 2 breaths. Logan wasn't just a good man. He was a prepared one. Years working private security taught him a routine that didn't look like much. Morning runs, disciplined meals, checklists, backups for the backups. He showered, shaved, trimmed his nails, and packed a plain black duffel. Nylon ties, a tiny screwdriver set, a compact flashlight, nitrile gloves, an audio recorder, a disposable camera, a roll of fluorescent evidence tape, and 2 laminated cards labeled chain of custody and property receipt. The kind of details that make bad men panic and good investigators smile. Before stepping out, he stared at himself in the mirror. The romantic part of him, the part that once left notes on Sabrina's coffee mug that read "I like you on purpose," had gone quiet the day he found a receipt for a dinner he never attended and a hotel he never booked. He could still remember asking, calm as he could manage, "What's this?" and Sabrina's laugh that sounded like denial practiced in the mirror. "You're being paranoid, Logan." It was a girl's night. A month later, she posted a photo of a bracelet that cost more than their car payment. He told himself not to jump to conclusions. 2 weeks after that, he was served papers, and Travis Kane began dropping Avery off late with snide grins. Logan didn't rage then. He learned the schedule. He waited. He trained. And now, with a 31-second voicemail in his pocket, he moved. At 1:17 a.m., the street was quiet enough to hear sprinklers across the cul-de-sac. Kane's 2-story suburban house looked like a magazine ad. Neat shrubs, a flag on the porch light burned out. In the upstairs back room, a sliver of glow. Avery's nightlight, the same one she'd had since she was 5. He smiled, just a flicker, and scaled the side fence. Inside, the living room flickered with a muted television. Travis Kane sprawled on the couch in a rumpled t-shirt, a half-empty bottle on the table. his service pistol within reach like a trophy. The sight of that weapon sitting so casually where Avery could see it stoked a clean heat in Logan's chest. Upstairs, a thin strip of light showed beneath a bedroom door. Logan tapped twice the old way. The door cracked. Big brown eyes. Avery. Dad. He knelt. We're leaving. Quiet, okay. Avery had a small backpack already zipped. That hurt more than the voicemail. Being ready is something kids shouldn't have to be. They made it to the stairs before a voice sliced through the dark. Well, look who finally decided to be a father. Travis stood now, posture loose, a grin that never reached his eyes. He lifted the pistol with the bored arrogance of a man who'd never been scared enough to get humble. "You're trespassing, Logan," he drawled. "I'll let you pick. Back of a squad car or a hospital bed." Logan kept Avery behind his leg and let his hands show. Open, empty. "You point that at my kid and see how that goes." Travis laughed. "She's going to learn what a real man looks like." He didn't get another word out. Years of repetition burn certain moves into muscle memory. Logan's hand snapped up, his palm smacking the barrel skyward. The shot blew out a light fixture and rained glittering shards. The follow-through slammed his forearm into Travis's throat, driving him into the wall. The pistol skittered under the couch. 3 seconds later, Travis was face down, wrists cinched with nylon ties, ankles bound. Avery clutched her father's sleeve. "Can we go now?" In 30 seconds, Logan said. He pulled out the camera, took 4 quick photos, clicked the audio recorder on, and set on the table beside the empty bottle. He slid Travis's badge and gun into a gallon bag, labeled it with the fluorescent tape, and wrote in bold black marker, "For Internal Affairs. Basement." Then he placed a second bag on top. This one holding a flash drive Hayes had left him in an unmarked envelope. Timestamps, money trails, messages that would wrinkle a police chief's forehead. He knelt so his mouth was inches from Travis's ear. "You'll be found," he said softly, "and you're going to wish you hadn't." On the way out, Avery whispered, "What's in the basement?" "Nothing you ever need to see," he said, and meant it. They stepped into the night air. Somewhere far off, a siren started to wail. Not his, Travis's. Logan buckled Avery into the passenger seat, and she reached for his hand. "You came," she said, small but certain. "Always," he answered, and for the first time in months, the word didn't feel like a hope. It felt like a promise. People think revenge is a lightning strike. Mostly it's a schedule. In the small motel kitchenette, Logan made oatmeal and sliced a banana the way Avery liked, sunflower seeds scattered on top, a drizzle of honey, cinnamon dusted like snow. He brewed coffee in a travel press and handed Avery warm cocoa, then reviewed the day's checklist as if he were back on an assignment. Contact attorney, file for emergency custody, arrange a check-in with Detective Hayes, enroll Avery back at Ridgeview Elementary, and, buried deep, but written, call Claire Bennett. Claire lived across the street from Sabrina, in a single-story home with a red door. She was a former ER nurse who now taught CPR in church basements and school cafeterias. She'd once handed Logan a foil-wrapped plate on a day when he looked like he had nothing left. "You don't have to talk," she had said. "Just eat." Logan had thanked her and never called again. He told himself it was because he was focused on custody. The truth was simpler. He still wore a ring groove he couldn't see but could feel. Avery spooned oatmeal and kicked her foot against the cabinet in a small, steady rhythm. "Do I still have to do my reading minutes?" "Yeah," he said, smiling. "Routine is how we win." They built a day that looked normal on purpose. School registration took an hour. The school counselor, Ms. Ridley with the bright scarf and gentle voice, promised private check-ins for Avery. On the way out, Logan bought 2 library cards. They picked up a battered copy of Because of Winn-Dixie and a cookbook called 5-Ingredient Dinners for Tired People. At lunch, Logan met attorney Rachel Donnelly. Tough eyes, direct tone. "You brought evidence," she said, flipping through the chain of custody forms and photos. "Good. We'll file ex parte for temporary full custody within the hour." Given the potential violence and what Internal Affairs is about to dig up, a judge will move. "Internal Affairs, you think they'll actually move?" Logan asked. Rachel's mouth tilted. "If half of what's on that drive is real, they'll sprint." They did. By evening, local stations ran a straight-faced headline, "Ridgeview officer on leave pending investigation." By night, The second segment used words like pattern, extortion, and basement. Sabrina's social media went private. A friend texted Logan a screenshot of Sabrina's post from 2 weeks earlier. An arm wearing the expensive bracelet, a caption about finally being cherished. The comments were now full of condolences that read like apologies to no one in particular. That night, when Avery fell asleep, face turned toward her favorite stuffed fox, Logan finally dialed Claire. He expected her to let it ring out. She picked up on the second buzz. "Logan, are you okay?" "We're safe for now," he said. "Avery's here with me. I figured. The street's been a circus," Claire said. Half the block saw the unmarked cars. "I have a favor," Logan said. "I hate asking. Could you bring Avery over after school tomorrow? I'll be filing more documents, and I don't want her around any of it." "Of course," Claire said, and then she added, softly, "I'm glad you called." Logan stared at the ceiling. There was a part of him that still wanted Sabrina to tell the truth without being forced, to admit how the bracelet ended up on her wrist, to say she had chosen adrenaline over decency and wasn't going to do that anymore. He remembered Fridays when she would press into him in the doorway and whisper, "You're my person," and he believed her. He remembered the first time she smiled at her phone and angled it away from him. He remembered saying, "Who's that?" and the thin, practiced chuckle she used to brush the question aside. Desire is easy to misread when it's dressed up as love. Logan had wanted a simple life. Dinners at home, science fair posters, the kind of backyard he could mow in 20 minutes. Sabrina wanted a life that glittered and was always just out of reach unless someone else paid. Around midnight, the cheater's counterpunch arrived. Sabrina called from a block number. He let it go to voicemail. Then a text from an unknown contact. "Household disturbance reported at your motel room. Officers en route." Logan smiled without humor. Classic. False report. Rattle the cage. Get him on the defensive. He placed his pocket recorder on a nightstand and attached a small clip-on camera to the lamp, one he used on jobs to document walkthroughs. When 2 officers knocked, he opened the door with his palms visible and his voice level. Avery snored softly behind him. He'd moved her to the far bed and tucked the blankets high. "We received a report of a disturbance," the taller officer said. "Come in," Logan replied. "Recording has been running since 10:03 p.m. We've been reading and sleeping." They scanned the room, asked 2 questions, and left with a nod that said we didn't want to be pawns either. 5 minutes later, Sabrina texted again from a burner she clearly thought he wouldn't recognize. "You're scaring everyone, Logan. Give Avery back and stop making this worse." He typed and erased 3 responses before settling on the only one that mattered. "A judge will decide. Don't contact me again." He muted the phone and lay awake staring at the off-white popcorn ceiling. Routine was how you survived, but truth, spoken out loud, was how you healed. He made a promise to himself that had nothing to do with courts or headlines. "I will build a home for Avery that never requires bravery to walk through the door." At 8:05 a.m., Avery poured cereal and announced, "I have a spelling test Friday, like someone who planned on having a Friday to get to." Logan smiled at the way certainty sounded in her voice now. They wrote the words on index cards and set 3 timers. Practice, snack, practice again. Between sessions, Logan called Hayes. "IA raided Kane's storage unit at dawn," Hayes said. "The drive you labeled gave them probable cause. Ledgers, cash envelopes, a list with initials next to $signs. He leveraged people who couldn't afford to be leveraged. Immigrants, gig workers, widows with late fees, collected protection money, and called it community safety. He also recorded his own threats like he thought they made him sound powerful." "And Sabrina?" Logan asked, the name sitting bitter on his tongue. "Her name's on a few transfers," Hayes said. "We'll see if she can explain why wedding gifts look like hush money." Explaining was Sabrina's specialty. She started at noon, posting a carefully lit video filmed in the soft glow of her kitchen. Hair pulled back, voice trembling just enough. "I had no idea," she said. "I'm devastated." She framed herself as a woman who believed she had finally found stability. She used the words coercion and manipulation. She didn't say choice. Comments flowed, some supportive, many skeptical, a few furious. She disabled them within the hour. But Sabrina didn't rely only on sympathy. She tried a sharper tactic. That afternoon, Child Protective Services knocked. Polite, professional, apologetic about the complaint they were required to investigate. Logan invited them in, offered coffee, and calmly produced school registration forms, Rachel Donnelly's filings, and the recorded timestamps from the previous night's false disturbance. He kept his voice even, not defensive, because truth didn't need volume to be heard. The agent, a woman with kind eyes, asked Avery 2 gentle questions and watched her draw a fox wearing a little backpack. She thanked them and left. Sabrina's attempt at revenge, that is, using systems meant to protect children as weapons, now sat in a file marked unfounded. Logan didn't cheer. He just felt tired, the kind of tired that makes you vow never to weaponize anything that has the word child in it. That evening, Logan and Avery ate tacos at the kitchen counter at Claire's house. Claire chopped tomatoes with a practiced rhythm and listened the way nurses do. Eyes steady, hands busy, no flinching when pain is described. When Avery went to the living room to build a tiny campfire out of Legos, Claire leaned in. "Do you want to talk about the part that isn't court filings and raids?" she asked. Logan hesitated. I want to be the guy who says he's over it. Being over it isn't a finish line, Claire said. It's a choice you make again tomorrow morning. He could have kissed her then. He didn't. He placed his hand on the counter instead, inches from hers, and let the silence be a promise that he would do this right. After dinner, Avery insisted on showing Claire her spelling word flashcards. Courage has a tricky OU, Ms. Bennett. Claire made a big deal out of every correct answer. Logan watched the scene with the quiet ache of a man who had denied himself, wanting something gentle. He didn't need fireworks. He wanted predictable Tuesdays, someone to tease him for folding towels wrong, a laugh that didn't come with secrets. He wanted to fall asleep, knowing no one was performing a version of themselves in his house. At 10:40 p.m., Hayes texted a single line, warrant signed. Kane in custody. Press at 10 tomorrow. Logan stared at the blinking cursor of his reply and wrote back, "Thank you." Then he added, "Tell IA to check the concrete seams in the basement floor." He didn't mention how he had noticed the uneven trowel marks, how the air had smelled like solvent the few times he'd picked Avery up and Travis had smirked, remodeling. He didn't want to imagine what would be found there. He didn't have to. He had already decided Avery would never know. Morning headlines didn't explode. They detonated with precision. Officer Travis Kane arrested on multiple felony counts. Internal Affairs uncovers extortion network. Subheads noted. Financial transfers linked to spouse. The anchor's voice was almost gentle in that rehearsed way networks use when evil wears a collar shirt. Rachel called at 9:15 a.m. Judge granted temporary full custody. Sabrina's access is limited to supervised, pending investigation, she said. The hearing for permanent custody is in 6 weeks. Maintain your routine. Judges notice what kids look like around the parent they feel safe with. Thank you, Logan said, feeling something unclench inside his ribs. The public part was satisfying, but it wasn't Logan's revenge. That had been quietly unfolding for days, written on laminated cards and tucked into evidence bags. Revenge, for him, wasn't breaking someone. It was removing their power to hurt and replacing it with a record that never stopped speaking. He still owed Sabrina a truth she couldn't spin. That afternoon, with Rachel's blessing and Hayes' presence, Logan met Sabrina at a neutral office with windows that looked out on a parking lot and a cactus. She walked in smaller than he remembered. Hair pulled into a tight bun, hands worrying a tissue. For a second, old muscle memory twitched in Logan's chest. Then he remembered Avery's backpack being pre-packed and the bracelet that had brought that look on Sabrina's face the first time she realized that toys could be used on grown UPS too. Sabrina started with a whisper. "Logan, I didn't know." "Don't," he said, calm, courteous, absolute. "We're past pretending." She swallowed. "I was lonely. You were gone all the time. Travis made me feel seen." "You wanted shiny," he said. "You gambled with our daughter's safety to get it." Her eyes flashed for the first time. "You think you didn't gamble? You chose work over us." "I chose stability," he replied. "You chose adrenaline. And now there are consequences." She reached for heat. "You're cruel." "I'm clear," he said. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to comply with the court's order. You're going to stop calling from block numbers, stop sending friends to check on us, and stop filing bad faith complaints that take time away from kids who actually need help. You're going to cooperate with Internal Affairs and tell the truth. If you do, Avery will eventually have the option of deciding how much space you occupy in her life. If you don't, that option shrinks. Sabrina stared at the table. You always did know how to make rules. I know how to make safety, he said. This, he gestured around them, to the documents and politely gloved hands, is the opposite of chaos. That's my revenge, Sabrina. Order. The kind that makes sure people like Travis never get to be inside a house with a child again. She blinked, lips trembling, and for a flicker he saw the 20-year-old who cried at sad commercials and danced barefoot in the kitchen. He wanted to hate her outright. Instead, he did something harder. You can tell your story however you want online, he said, but when you're with Avery, you'll tell the truth. You were wrong. You chose badly, and you're working to fix it. That's it. She didn't answer. Hayes gathered the papers. Rachel closed a folder, and Logan stood, done offering a kindness Sabrina might mistake for permission. At home that evening, Avery and Claire decorated cupcakes with enough sprinkles to be seen from space. Avery's laughter came loose and easy, without the brittle edge it had developed the past year. Logan washed the mixing bowls and listened to it, letting it soak into the part of him that had calcified. When Avery finally fell asleep, frosting still visible at the corner of her mouth, Logan walked Claire to the porch. They stood in the kind of quiet that feels like agreement. I don't know how to do this, he admitted, hands in his pockets. The starting again part. You just did, Claire said. You asked for help. You told the truth. And you made tacos edible with 5 ingredients. He chuckled. Avery's right. Courage has a tricky OU. Claire smiled. So does you. He wanted to kiss her. He didn't. He wanted to be a man Avery could point to in 10 years and say, that's what steady looks like. He wanted to want slow on purpose. Desire, he realized, didn't need to be proved by speed. It could be demonstrated by patience. He touched Claire's hand. Only that. And said, tomorrow, pizza night? Tomorrow, she said. 6 weeks rearranges a life when you give it a chance. Avery's spelling list turned into a reading award. The fox with the backpack got stitched at the ear and kept its spot on the pillow. Logan's mornings were a circuit of small joys. Packed lunches, school drop-offs with a hug at the curb, grocery lists with checkboxes, a running route that cut through a park where parents waved to one another without looking over their shoulders. His consulting work fit into early afternoons, headset on while laundry machines hummed. Routine wasn't a cage. It was a song that made everything else sing in tune. The custody hearing lasted 39 minutes. Rachel spoke clean facts, not dramas. The judge, a woman with a calm mouth and eyes that missed nothing, read the timeline, the reports, the transcript from internal affairs. She glanced at Avery's drawing attached to a counselor's note. The fox with a little backpack, a house with 4 windows, stick-figure dad with a big smile. Logan watched the judge look at that smile longer than she looked at the ledgers. The order, permanent full custody, landed like a gentle gavel. Sabrina didn't look up. She signed what she had to sign. When the judge asked if she had anything to add, she said, I'm trying to make things right. The judge nodded without adding praise. Actions, not adjectives. Outside the courthouse, Sabrina approached. No cameras, no script. I'm sorry, she said, and for the first time, it sounded like a sentence and not a performance. I told myself a story about what I deserved. It hurt our daughter. I will fix what I can. Logan nodded once. Fixing starts with telling Avery the truth when she asks. I won't script your apology. I'll hold you to it. He walked away without bitterness. Forgiveness wasn't owed. It was offered when safe. He wasn't there yet. He might be one day. The important thing was that Avery's door would close at night on a room that required no courage to enter. That weekend, Logan and Avery assembled a flat-pack bookshelf and stacked it with library finds. They hung a corkboard for art that looked like fireworks and a calendar with stickers for pizza night, movie on the couch, and Ms. Bennett's CPR demo, bring cookies. Claire joined them, carrying store-brand soda, and the kind of laugh that made silence feel cozy. She didn't fix them. She fit. On Sunday, they drove to the farmer's market where the air smelled like kettle corn and the future felt like a choice. Avery spotted a bracelet at a vendor's table. Simple woven thread with a tiny silver bead, and looked at Logan with that tentative look kids get when they want something but don't want to take too much. Can we? She asked. Logan knelt. We can, he said, and tell me why. Because it's pretty, she said, turning the bead with her finger. And because pretty things don't have to be secrets. He swallowed. That's exactly right. They paid $6. Avery slid the bracelet onto her wrist like it was crown. Logan felt something loosen, an old knot he had carried that didn't belong to him anymore. The last loose thread arrived 2 weeks later in a place as ordinary as a shopping mall. Logan and Avery carried pretzels and paper bags, moving with the idle confidence of people who were together on purpose. A voice behind them said, "Soft but urgent, Avery." They turned. Sabrina stood 20 feet away, hair pulled back, sweatshirt washed to a faded gray. No makeup, no performance. She didn't try to come closer. She lifted her hand in a small wave and said, "You look happy." Avery looked up at Logan. He nodded. She raised her wrist to show the thread bracelet. "We got it at the farmer's market," she said. "It's not a secret." Sabrina's eyes brimmed. She nodded, mouthed good, and lowered her gaze. A mall security officer walked by, glanced, and kept going, the way people do when nothing dangerous is happening and no one is pretending otherwise. Logan and Avery stepped back into the soft noise of ordinary life, the kind that feels like music when you've been living in static. Outside, the sky was the kind of clear that makes you squint and laugh at the same time. Avery squeezed his hand. "What's for dinner?" "5-ingredient pizza," he said, and she cheered. On the porch that night, after Avery fell asleep, Logan and Claire sat with mugs, not wine. Mugs were truer to who they were now. Claire leaned her shoulder against his. "You did it," she said. "We did it," he corrected. "Hayes, Rachel, Ms. Ridley, you, and a brave kid who decided to keep a backpack ready for freedom." They didn't kiss then. They didn't need to prove anything to the air. They let the quiet speak for them, the steady kind, the kind that moves furniture around the heart to make room for something that lasts. Logan thought about the word revenge and how everyone imagines fire. His had been paperwork, patience, and the refusal to lie. He thought of Avery's bracelet and how pretty things weren't secrets anymore. He thought of the next morning's lunchbox note he'd already written. "Proud of you. Love, Dad." He slid it under the magnet shaped like a fox's face. Inside, a dishwasher hummed. In the hallway, a nightlight shone down on a small backpack hanging from a hook, empty now except for a library card and a pencil case. Courage, Logan remembered, has a tricky OU. Home, he realized, does too. You build it out of choices you make again tomorrow morning, and the next morning after that.